Have you ever looked around at the people in your life and felt different? Like the conversations don't excite you anymore. The jokes don't land the same. The dreams feel too small. And then the guilt hits you. Am I becoming arrogant? Am I leaving people behind? But what if you're not becoming arrogant? What if you're just growing? Outgrowing people is one of the most painful and confusing parts of personal growth. Nobody talks about it enough. We talk about success, confidence, leveling up. But we don't talk about the loneliness that sometimes comes with it. When you outgrow everyone around you, it doesn't mean you're better. It means you're changing. Your mindset is expanding. Your standards are rising. Your priorities are shifting. And growth always creates distance, not because you want it to, but because it has to. Let's talk about what really happens when you outgrow everyone around you. There comes a moment in personal growth that feels confusing and almost painful. You're surrounded by people, friends, coworkers, even family. Yet you feel strangely alone. Not physically alone, emotionally alone, mentally alone. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens step by step. First, your interests begin to change. The conversations that once excited you start to feel repetitive. The same gossip, the same complaints, the same jokes. You listen, but something inside you feels disconnected. It's not that you think you're better than anyone. It's just that your mind is focused on different things now. Goals, growth, discipline, healing, purpose. Your internal world has expanded, but your external environment hasn't caught up yet. Second, your values start shifting. Maybe you used to prioritize fitting in, now you prioritize becoming better. Maybe you used to chase attention, now you chase progress. When your values change, your emotional reactions change too. Things that once felt normal now feel draining. Negativity feels heavier. Small talk feels exhausting. You begin craving deeper conversations about dreams, ideas, meaning. But the people around you may not be in that same space. Third, you start observing more and participating less. You're in the room, but you're quiet. You're listening, but you're thinking. You smile, but internally you feel distant. That's when the loneliness hits hardest. When you realize you're physically present, but mentally somewhere else. It can make you question yourself. Why don't I enjoy this anymore? Why do I feel different? But growth often feels like isolation before it feels like elevation. Let's make this practical. Imagine you used to spend weekends partying with friends. That was your routine. That was your identity. But now you've started working on a personal goal. Maybe building a skill, improving your health, or starting a small business. You still go out sometimes, but while everyone else is talking about drama or the next party, you're thinking about your plans for the week. You check the time more often. You feel slightly out of place. They're laughing loudly, and you're wondering why it doesn't hit the same anymore. That's not arrogance. That's evolution. Here's the important part. This feeling doesn't mean you should cut everyone off or act distant. It simply means you're entering a new mental level. And whenever you level up internally, there's a temporary gap before your environment catches up. Now let me give you one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Instead of withdrawing completely or pretending to fit in, start introducing one deeper topic into your next conversation. Just one. Ask a meaningful question. Share a goal you're working on. You don't have to preach. Just plant a seed. This does two things. It shows you who is willing to grow with you, and it helps you feel more authentic instead of silently disconnecting. And if no one responds, that's information, not rejection. It simply means you may need to slowly expand your circle while appreciating people for who they are, without expecting them to become who you're becoming. Feeling alone in a crowd is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's often a sign that something is right. You are becoming more self-aware, more intentional, more focused, and sometimes growth separates you before it connects you to the right people. So if you're in that season right now, sitting in a room full of people but feeling like your mind is somewhere higher, don't panic. Don't shrink yourself. Don't go backward just to feel included. You're not losing connection. You're transitioning. There's a stage in growth that almost everyone goes through, but very few people talk about openly. The stage where you start feeling misunderstood, and it doesn't happen because you're doing something wrong. It happens because you're changing. Step by step, here's what really goes on. First, your mindset begins to shift. You start thinking long-term instead of short-term. You begin caring about discipline, peace, boundaries, and purpose. Things that once felt normal, constant complaining, wasting time, chasing approval, no longer feel aligned with who you're becoming. Inside, you feel clearer, more focused. But from the outside, people just see that you're different. Second, Your behavior changes. You say no more often. You protect your time. You don't react to drama the way you used to. You stop explaining yourself too much. And this is where misunderstanding begins. The same people who were comfortable with the old version of you may struggle with the new one. They might say, "You've changed." They might joke that you think you're better than them. They might even feel rejected. But here's the truth. Growth often looks like rejection to people who aren't growing. Third, you realize that not everyone has access to your internal transformation. They don't see the late nights you spent working on yourself. They don't feel the anxiety you overcame. They don't know how hard it was to break old habits. So when you make new choices, they judge the surface without understanding the journey underneath. Let's make this real. Imagine you decide to focus seriously on your career or personal development. You stop going out as often. You wake up early. You spend weekends learning or building something meaningful. Your friends might say, "Why are you acting so serious?" Or, "Relax, life isn't that deep." From their perspective, you're overdoing it. From your perspective, you're finally taking your life seriously. That gap between how you see your growth and how they see your change creates the feeling of being misunderstood. And it hurts, because deep down you don't want to lose connection. You just don't want to lose yourself either. Now here's one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Instead of expecting everyone to understand you, focus on clearly communicating one simple reason behind your change. Not to convince them, not to argue, just to express yourself calmly. For example, say, "I'm really trying to build something important for my future, so I'm choosing to spend my time differently." That's it. No long speeches, no defensiveness. When you communicate with calm confidence, you remove unnecessary tension. And if they still don't understand, that's okay. Understanding is a bonus, not a requirement. Feeling misunderstood is often a sign that you're stepping into a version of yourself that not everyone is familiar with yet. And that's part of growth. You can't evolve and expect everyone to instantly relate to the new you. So, don't shrink just to be understood. Don't slow down just to stay relatable. Keep growing. The right people, the ones who think bigger, dream deeper, and respect discipline, will understand you without needing long explanations. And until then, trust this. Being misunderstood for your growth is far better than being accepted for staying small. There's a quiet truth about growth that nobody prepares you for. As you grow, some relationships will naturally fade, not because you had a fight, not because someone betrayed you, not because there was drama, but simply because you are no longer walking in the same direction. And that realization can feel both peaceful and painful at the same time. It usually starts slowly. First, your priorities begin to shift. Maybe you become more serious about your goals. Maybe you start working on your emotional health. Maybe you decide to protect your time and energy. Whatever it is, something inside you matures. You begin thinking differently. You value depth over distraction, progress over comfort, peace over chaos. And at first you assume everyone will grow with you. But growth is personal. It's individual. Not everyone evolves at the same pace. The next step is subtle distance. You still care about these people. You still respect the memories. But the connection doesn't feel the same anymore. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. The humor doesn't land the same way. The excitement isn't shared. You start noticing gaps, not because anyone did something wrong, but because you are becoming someone new. This is where confusion begins. You may ask yourself, am I changing too much, or am I being selfish? But here's the truth. Growth always changes compatibility. When two people grow in different directions, distance is not cruelty, it's reality. Think about it like this. Imagine two trees planted side by side. In the beginning, they grow at the same pace. Their branches touch. Their roots intertwine. But over time, one tree grows taller and leans toward the sunlight in a slightly different direction. The other tree stays where it is. Neither tree is wrong. They're just responding to different conditions. Eventually, their branches no longer touch. That's not betrayal. That's nature. In relationships, this often looks like fewer phone calls, slower replies, less shared excitement. You might notice that you're the only one trying to have deeper conversations, or the only one excited about personal growth. You start realizing that your future vision no longer matches theirs. Let's make it practical. Imagine you and a close friend always bonded over complaining about work and avoiding responsibility. That was your connection. But now you've decided to improve your skills. Maybe start a side project or apply for better opportunities. You begin talking about ideas and ambition. Your friend responds with sarcasm or disinterest. They'd rather stay in the comfort of routine. Slowly, you stop sharing your goals because you don't feel supported. You still like them. You still wish them well. But the connection weakens. That fading can hurt more than a dramatic ending because there's no clear closure, just quiet distance. Another step in this process is emotional maturity. You begin understanding that not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people enter your life for a season. Some are there to teach you something. Some are there to support you during a specific chapter. And once that chapter closes, the relationship changes. We often romanticize the idea that real relationships last forever. But sometimes real relationships last exactly as long as they're meant to. And that's okay. The hardest part is letting go without resentment. It's easy to turn growth into ego, to think, I've outgrown them. But true growth is humble. It says, we are on different paths now. There's no need for blame, no need for superiority, just acceptance. You might feel guilt during this stage. You might feel like you're abandoning people. But staying in a space that no longer aligns with who you're becoming doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve them either. When you force connections that no longer fit, both sides feel the tension. And here's something powerful. When relationships fade naturally, they create space. Space for new connections. Space for people who share your vision. Space for mentors, collaborators, and friends who speak the same mental language as you. But that space only opens if you stop holding on tightly to what's already drifting away. Now, let me give you one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Instead of cutting people off abruptly or over-explaining yourself, practice gradual boundary adjustment. Start by adjusting how much time and energy you invest. You don't need dramatic announcements. Simply prioritize your growth consistently. Spend more time on your goals. Seek out environments that inspire you. Let your schedule reflect your priorities. Over time, the relationships that are meant to stay will adapt. The ones that aren't will naturally loosen without unnecessary conflict. This approach protects your peace and your character. You leave relationships with respect, not bitterness. Remember, growth is not about losing people. It's about becoming aligned. Sometimes the people who fade were necessary for who you were, but not for who you are becoming. And that doesn't erase the value they had in your life. It simply means the season has changed. There is maturity in honoring the past without trying to live in it. There is strength in accepting that not everyone will walk the entire journey with you. And there is wisdom in understanding that holding on too tightly can prevent both you and them from stepping into new chapters. So if you're in a season where relationships feel like they're quietly fading, don't panic. Don't rush to fix what may not be broken. Reflect. Appreciate the memories. Keep your heart kind, but keep your direction clear. Because as you grow, your circle will shift. And that shift is not a sign of loss. It's a sign of movement. You are not meant to stay the same person forever. And not every relationship is meant to grow with every version of you. There comes a point in your growth where something shifts quietly but powerfully inside you. You don't announce it. You don't post about it, but you feel it. You start developing higher standards. And this isn't about ego. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about realizing what you will and will not accept anymore. This process happens step by step. First, awareness increases. When you begin working on yourself, reading, reflecting, healing, learning from mistakes, you become more conscious of your habits and your environment. You start noticing patterns. You see how certain conversations drain you. You recognize behaviors you used to ignore. You become aware of how your time is being spent. And once you see clearly, you cannot unsee it. Second, your self-respect grows. As you put effort into improving your life, you start valuing yourself differently. When you wake up early, work on your goals, or overcome old habits, you build quiet confidence. You begin thinking, if I'm working this hard on myself, why would I tolerate disrespect? Why would I accept laziness in my own life? Why would I stay in situations that shrink me? Higher standards are a natural result of higher self-respect. Third, your tolerance decreases. Things that once felt normal begin to feel uncomfortable. Constant negativity feels heavy. Unreliable people feel exhausting. Drama feels childish. It's not that you suddenly hate everyone. It's that your nervous system no longer enjoys chaos. You crave peace. You crave growth. You crave meaningful conversations. Your internal world has leveled up, and now your external expectations are catching up. Let's make this real with a practical example. Imagine you used to stay in friendships where sarcasm and subtle disrespect were common. People would make jokes at your expense, and you would laugh along just to fit in. But over time, as you build confidence and work on your self-worth, those same jokes start feeling different. They don't feel funny anymore. They feel misaligned. Now, instead of laughing, you feel a quiet discomfort. That discomfort is growth. It's your standards rising. Or maybe in the past, you were okay with being inconsistent, skipping workouts, procrastinating on goals, wasting hours scrolling. But now, after experiencing what discipline feels like, you don't enjoy that version of yourself anymore. You begin expecting more from your own behavior. That's another sign your standards are evolving. Here's something important to understand. Higher standards are not about demanding perfection from others. They're about alignment. When you develop higher standards, you simply want your environment to match the effort you're putting into yourself. If you're striving to be honest, you expect honesty. If you're striving to be disciplined, you value discipline. If you're working on emotional maturity, you seek emotional stability. This stage can feel lonely at first, because when your standards rise, fewer things fit. Fewer people feel aligned. Fewer environments feel comfortable. And that can make you question yourself. You might think, am I becoming too picky, too serious, too distant? But what's really happening is that you are becoming intentional. There's also a deeper emotional layer to this. When you worked hard to heal from past mistakes or toxic patterns, you become protective of your peace. You know how much it costs you to reach this level of clarity. You know the sleepless nights, the self-doubt, the lessons learned the hard way. And because of that, you're no longer willing to return to environments that undo your progress. Higher standards also show up in how you treat yourself. You begin speaking to yourself differently. You stop tolerating your own excuses. You stop accepting almost effort. You start holding yourself accountable. That's powerful. Because true standards begin internally before they ever affect your relationships. Now here's the balance you must remember. Higher standards should come with humility, not superiority. Growth is not about looking down on others. It's about staying committed to your path. Everyone is on their own timeline. Some people are just in a different chapter, and that's okay. The goal is not to judge. The goal is to choose wisely. Now let me give you one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Take 10 minutes today and write down 3 non-negotiables for your life right now. These could be things like, I don't tolerate disrespectful jokes. I protect my mornings for productivity. Or I surround myself with people who support my goals. Keep it simple. Just 3. Once you write them down, start honoring them consistently. Not loudly, not aggressively, quietly and firmly. When you live by clear standards, your decisions become easier. You don't overthink as much. You don't chase approval. You don't stay where you feel small. You simply ask, does this align with who I'm becoming? If the answer is no, you adjust. Developing higher standards is a sign of maturity. It means you've experienced enough to know what drains you and what fuels you. It means you respect your time. It means you understand your value. And most importantly, it means you are no longer willing to betray your future just to stay comfortable in the present. So if you feel like fewer things satisfy you now, if you notice you're walking away from situations you once tolerated, if you feel more selective about where you invest your energy, don't be afraid of that shift. It's not arrogance, it's growth. And once your standards rise, your life begins to rise with them. There's something powerful that happens when you truly start growing. You begin making space for new energy. And at first, it doesn't feel exciting. It feels uncomfortable. It feels empty. It feels uncertain. But that space you're creating, that's where your next level is waiting. Let's walk through the step by step. The first step is release. Before anything new can enter your life, something old usually has to leave. Old habits, old conversations, old environments, sometimes even old relationships. And this part feels strange because humans naturally hold on to what's familiar. Even if it's draining, even if it's limiting, familiar feels safe. But growth requires space, and space requires letting go. When you stop engaging in gossip, you create space for meaningful conversations. When you stop wasting hours scrolling, you create space for productivity. When you distance yourself from constant negativity, you create space for peace. At first, that space feels like silence, and silence can feel lonely. But silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. The second step is tolerance for temporary loneliness. When you outgrow certain environments, your calendar might suddenly look lighter. Your phone might feel quieter. Weekends might feel different, and your mind might whisper, did I make the wrong decision? But this phase is normal. It's the gap between who you were and who you are becoming. Think about cleaning out a closet. When you remove old clothes, the closet looks empty before it looks organized. But you had to clear out what no longer fit to make room for what truly suits you now. The same is true with energy. If your life is full of distractions and misalignment, there's no room for alignment to enter. The third step is clarity. When you create space, you start seeing what you truly want. Without noise, you can hear your own thoughts more clearly. Without constant influence, you can identify your real desires. You begin asking better questions. What kind of people inspire me? What environments make me feel alive? What conversations energize me? This clarity is powerful because now you're not just drifting, you're choosing intentionally. Let's bring this into a practical example. Imagine you've always spent time with friends who complain about life but never take action. You love them, but you notice their mindset affects you. You start doubting yourself. You feel less motivated after being around them, so you decide to limit how often you engage in those conversations. Instead, you spend that time listening to educational content, attending a workshop, or connecting with people who share your goals. At first, it feels different, maybe even awkward, but slowly you notice something changing. You feel more hopeful, more focused, more inspired. That's new energy entering your life. New energy doesn't always mean new people immediately. Sometimes it starts with new ideas, new habits, new routines, new perspectives. But eventually, when you consistently align your actions with your growth, new people do appear. You meet someone who speaks your language, someone who understands ambition, someone who values discipline and peace, and suddenly you realize the space was necessary. Here's something important. You cannot attract aligned energy while clinging to misaligned energy. If you're constantly surrounded by people who mock your goals, it's hard for supportive people to find you. If your schedule is full of distractions, opportunities have nowhere to fit. Space is not loss. It is invitation. There is also a mindset shift that must happen here. Instead of viewing change as abandonment, view it as alignment. You are not leaving people behind. You are stepping into rooms that match your evolution. And sometimes, others may join you later. Sometimes they won't. But your responsibility is to your growth, not to maintaining comfort for everyone else. Now let me give you one actionable tip you can apply immediately. Do an energy audit today. Take a piece of paper and draw 2 columns. On one side, write, energizes me. On the other side, write, drains me. List people, habits, environments, and activities honestly. Once you finish, choose just one draining item and reduce its presence this week. Not dramatically, just intentionally. Replace that time or energy with something from the energizing list. This small shift begins the process of creating space. As you do this, pay attention to how you feel. Growth should feel challenging, yes, but it should also feel expanding, lighter, more aligned. When you make space for new energy, you often feel more peaceful even if things are quieter. And here's the beautiful part. New energy brings new identity. The more you surround yourself with growth-oriented environments, the more your mindset strengthens. The more you protect your peace, the more stable you become. The more you engage with people who dream big, the bigger you start dreaming. It's a chain reaction. But it all starts with courage. The courage to let there be space. If your life feels different right now, if certain connections are fading, if your routine feels unfamiliar, don't rush to fill the gap with the old just because it's comfortable. Sit with the space. Build within the space. Trust the space. Because space is where transformation breathes. You are not losing energy. You are redirecting it. And when you make room for the right energy, you don't have to chase it. It naturally finds you. Outgrowing everyone around you is not a betrayal, it's a transformation. Yes, it can feel lonely. Yes, it can feel uncomfortable. But discomfort is often proof that you're evolving. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to raise your standards. You are allowed to protect your energy. And most importantly, you are allowed to become someone your past self wouldn't even recognize. If you feel like you're outgrowing your environment, don't shrink to stay relatable. Grow anyway, because the right people, the ones who match your mindset, your ambition, and your heart, are waiting at the next level.